This video will explore how to maximise your use of academic sources in psychology. The aim of this session is to demonstrate how academic sources can be used to your best advantage when writing in psychology. We'll be exploring why referencing is important, how to construct a citation and properly reference sources, how to maximise your use of other sources by paraphrasing, how to minimise the risk of self-plagiarism, and where you can get further help. Let's start by thinking about referencing. Referencing is the way that you record all of the information sources that you've used to support any piece of work you write. Every time you draw on another person or organisation's ideas that aren't your own, you need to credit the author or organisation by referencing your sources. This is good academic practice, so it's very important throughout your degree. In addition, if you go on to do further research in any capacity, you'll need to be able to reference. But why do we reference? Firstly, you want to give credit to the researchers and authors whose work you've used to build your own arguments. If you imagine someone was using work you'd written in their own research, you'd want to gain credit. Secondly, in academic work, referencing is essential to avoid plagiarism. Plagiarism is the action of taking someone else's work, idea, and passing it off as your own. You probably wouldn't do this on purpose, but it's important to make sure you are properly referencing to show when something isn't your original idea to avoid this. When you reference, you also enable other people to find the sources you've used. If they're reading your work, they may want to look further into the sources that have helped you to develop your arguments. Referencing is also important for gaining recognition for the research you've done. You spend lots of time researching and finding academic sources to use to build your argument and write a really high quality assignment, so you want this work to be recognised. By referencing your sources, your tutor or whoever is reading your work will be able to see that you've engaged with the most relevant literature and used credible sources in your work. So you know why you should reference work, but what do you actually need to reference? Anything that is not common knowledge needs to be referenced. Common knowledge might be that the capital of France is Paris, or that the chemical symbol for water is H2O. Something like that wouldn't need a reference. But if there are facts or ideas that you've found in a resource that are not common knowledge, then you need to reference them. When you're reading and you come across new information, ideas or theories that you use in your work, these need to be referenced. This includes quotations, exact words of another author, and information you summarise or paraphrase. This information could come from a variety of sources, including books, chapters, articles, web pages, theses, social media posts, YouTube videos, and more. The advice we'd give is that if you're not sure whether you should reference something, then reference it. When it comes to how to reference, there are several different referencing styles. In psychology, we use APA 7th edition. There are two parts to APA referencing. Firstly, there's the in-text citation, which appears in the body of your work and contains the author's surname and the year of publication. Then there's the full reference, which gives the full details of the source. The full reference is given in a reference list at the end of the paper, and it will contain information like the title of the resource and other publication details. What is important to remember with referencing is that you don't need to memorise the styles, as you will always be able to make use of referencing style guides when generating references. However, as you gain more experience with the style, the format will become more familiar to you. To access the APA Referencing Style Guide, first head to the library homepage and scroll down to Study and Research Support, then select Referencing. On this page, select Psychology from the drop-down menu and then press Go. You will then be taken to the APA Style Guide, where you can select the type of resource you wish to reference from the top navigation bar or the list. When you select the resource type, you can see more information and examples of how to reference. When you're performing literature searches, it's a good idea to keep a record of the sources you're finding and the information you'll need to construct your reference for each source. Being clear and consistent with this helps to ensure you don't end up representing another idea as your own within your assignment, and ensures it's easier to create your references when you come to do so. So how do you keep a record of where information has come from? There are lots of ways you can do this. We'd recommend that when you're doing your reading and taking notes, make sure that you have a heading with the information you need to construct the reference. For example, you could have a Word document, and as you read something new, you use the information you need for the reference as a heading. You can then bullet point key quotes or ideas underneath this heading. This helps to ensure that you know where the information has come from when it comes to writing your assignment. You could also use reference management software to keep a record of your sources. Reference management software allows you to collect, store, and organize your references. There are several different reference management software platforms available, but the university's IT services team supports EndNote. You could also use Mendeley or Zotero, which are both free to download. All three have a plugin for Microsoft Word which allows you to insert references into your documents really quickly and easily, and this does the formatting for you. If you're using reference management software, just be aware that the references it can generate are only as good as the information it has been given, so you will always need to check the references yourself using a style guide. Referencing is not only important when you're directly quoting from a source, it is also essential when paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is demonstrating your understanding of the text you are reading by writing them in your own words. In other words, paraphrasing is explaining or interpreting another author's idea, argument, or theory. When paraphrasing, you might restate an author's argument in your own words, you may condense or clarify their points, or you might use their argument to provide credibility to your own points. The most important thing about paraphrasing is that it must demonstrate your understanding of the academic source you're using. Paraphrasing is an essential academic skill because it isn't just reusing another person's work, it's showing your understanding of the original source. You do this through discussing links and connections between the cited work and the point that you're making. The aim is to ensure the reader can grasp broad ideas or arguments without reading the source text, and in doing so this provides a context for the topic of your work. Comparing and contrasting sources in this way demonstrates that you have adopted a critical approach to your reading. When paraphrasing, you must always include a reference to avoid plagiarism. Remember that if you are using direct wording from the original source, you need to use quotation marks. So in practical terms, how do we go about paraphrasing? Following these steps is a good way to get into the habit of paraphrasing. Firstly, reread the original idea you are paraphrasing and look up any words you don't recognise until you understand the full meaning. Next, cover or hide the text and rewrite it in your own words. A good way to think of this is to pretend you're explaining the concept to your tutor or classmates. Once you've written this, check what you have written against the original. Make sure that you have addressed the author's ideas in a way that is unique to your writing style and flows with your argument. Make sure you haven't simply replicated the author's ideas by changing words around in their sentences. Remember, you are demonstrating your understanding and using another person's idea to make your own point and demonstrate your critical approach to reading. Finally, add the reference. Now we're going to have a look at a couple of examples of paraphrasing. On this slide is some text that is going to be paraphrased. Pause the video now to read this text. The text is also available in the description of this video. The grey text on the left-hand side of this slide is the text we have just read. On the right in black is an example of an attempt to paraphrase this extract. Pause the video to read this paraphrased text. The text is also available in the description of this video. When comparing the paraphrased text to the original, it's clear that the paraphrased version has simply copied the original. The red underlined words are simply synonyms of words used in the original source. The sentence structure is also mirrored. Even though there is a reference, this would be a bad example of paraphrasing. A reference alone doesn't prevent an academic offence. This example of paraphrasing doesn't demonstrate an understanding of the text and doesn't show a critical approach to reading. On the right-hand side of this slide is a second attempt at paraphrasing the same text. Pause the video now to read this example. This text is also available in the video description. In this example, the author has taken the essential ideas and information from the original source, but has worded it in their own way, using unique word choice and sentence structure. The author has condensed Thompson's information, including what is relevant to their paper, but leaving out extra detail that is not needed. Another common way in which academic sources can be misused is through self-plagiarism. Self-plagiarism is reusing your own previously written work. If you've written something on a topic before, you need to make sure that you aren't directly reusing anything without giving credit to your previous piece of work. You can imagine that academic staff who research on a particular topic need to be aware of this. They might publish their research, but then do further research in that field that builds upon what they've already done. When they do this, they need to make sure that they cite anything that came from their previous work and acknowledge that it is not new. What they'll be doing in their new publication is building upon their previous work and adding something new to the conversation, not just reusing the old work. If you need to build upon any of your previous work in your assignments, consider paraphrasing your words and contextualizing them to develop your argument while still providing a full reference. Remember, if you use material from a previous assignment, you must reference it, and you should never submit the same essay or extracts from that essay for different assignments or modules. We'd always recommend checking with your tutor what they think about self-citation, as it may cause you to lose marks if you are not putting sufficient new work into your current assignment. Demonstrating your ability to understand and critically read academic psychological sources to support your arguments ensures you're making the most of the reading you're doing. Providing accurate references alongside this ensures you are not committing academic offences, gives proper attribution to fellow researchers, and ultimately prevents you losing marks in your assignments. There is further support on both academic integrity and writing skills via the university website. Follow the links in this video's description to find out more. Finally, remember the library website has a broad range of referencing guidance, so do make use of this. You can also contact Skills for Success for more help with academic writing skills. If you have any further questions on the content of this video, please do get in touch with the library via libline@essex.ac.uk. Thanks for watching.